Yeah. Well, my coming out before the Advocate article of October 1971 is a somewhat long story, but the most essential elements of it are that I came to New York City in the summer of 1971 to come out through the Gay Activist Alliance, basically, because I had realized a year prior to that I really needed to finally address that aspect of my life in a concerted way. And so I came here for the first time of any length, and it was ostensibly to get a job in a bank to pay my expenses for the summer, but it really was, in reality, to come out in the Gay Activist Alliance at their firehouse in Soho. And it was a revelatory experience for me. And there I met someone named Roy, actually, with whom I had a first serious erotic encounter. So when I went back to Williamstown that fall, and I was coincidentally the editor of The Advocate, I had decided that I was going to bring gay liberation to campus. And the question was how. And so initially I thought the best way would be to try to document how gay students at Williams had coped prior to that. And so I sought to interview people I thought would have knowledge about that. So long-term members of the faculty, college administrators, and other people who might be knowledgeable about the social dynamics of what life in Williamstown was like for students at that time. And so I did a series of interviews with people like Fred Rudolph and the dean of students, and I think the provost, and any number of different people. And none of them had anything of consequence to tell me. In fact, the only thing that really was a documentary indication was the minutes of a Board of Trustees meeting of the college from the 1930s, where the president of the college made some offhand reference to gay students. He didn't use that term, but something like that, which Fred Rudolph, as the historian of the college, was familiar with and gave me. But that was far from enough around which to build a story. So I realized at that point in time that I knew who the expert was at being a gay student at the college, and so I sat down and interviewed myself one day in Stetson Hall in the library of the college. And that became then my coming out story, and I gave myself the pseudonym of Roy in honor of this person I had met in New York the summer before, by which I could really tell a very, kind of heartrending, sympathetic story that people could be moved by, before I put that concluding line that, oh, by the way, I'm Roy Dan Pinello. And that, in a very quick nutshell, is the story of how that occurred. Yeah. Well, pride means to me that it's really the culmination of so much of what I struggled and have fought for in my lifetime. Because now at places like Williams, there are institutionalized LGBTQ support services and groups available. So a freshman arriving on campus can go through a list of clubs or opportunities that he or she can want to participate in from the get-go. As opposed to when I arrived in the fall of 1968, there was nothing. There was, it was a desert, really. And now, in contrast, Pride is an oasis. Really, it's really, again, this extraordinary thing that I could not have imagined, 50 plus years ago. When I arrived on campus, it would have been beyond my comprehension even to fantasize about. And so it shows that the struggle was worth it. that there was a good reason for everything that we did, and that it culminated in this extraordinary acknowledgement by virtually all or much of American society, really, and again, ways that I could never have foreseen. And so I'm very, very proud that I, for whatever degree, participated in that development over time. I will say now, interestingly enough, that I am somewhat ambivalent about Pride as a phenomenon, in that when I marched in the second Christopher Street Liberation Day parade, which was in 1971, that was a very political, uproarious kind of event, where we were, putting our fists in the air and shouting "justice, justice" kind of thing, and it was very angry. It was very confrontational. Today it's a celebration, right? And that's a very different kind of message and experience. And it is where I am today, as a senior citizen now. It's really overwhelming for me, really, just in terms of the numbers of people. Because, I mean, when we marched up 6th Avenue in 1971, we were just going up a small little sliver of the avenue on the side, just near the sidewalk, whereas the regular traffic was there as well. And we are a group of, I don't know, perhaps several hundred people. But I mean, we were all committed people who were serious and had a mission, right? Today it's a celebration. And the mission component isn't really there as much, if at all, because indeed so many of the goals that we sought 50 years ago have been achieved. Legal and other kinds of equality. And so I kind of miss the days when we were so fervent about our goals and about our spirit and about our purpose. Now people don't have that same kind of understanding about why they're marching, why they're there. It's again, let's have a good time, let's celebrate, let's have fun together, whatnot. And again, in one way, that's terrific. They don't have to ever acknowledge in any way the kind of oppression that I had to deal with. But at the same time, part of the meaning of the event has now become superfluous. Yes. So I think Williams is keeping up to date with the cutting edge of both scholarship and activism, in the sense of having interest in what is known now as intersectionality, which again, back in my day was unknown. I mean, one identity was enough for me back that time. I mean, for example, I have an Italian surname, but I've never really identified as such because I had something else that was far more important to me, right? Being a gay man who happened to be Italian. Now again, since there isn't that kind of overwhelming need for just one focus, as my experience was, there can be this multidimensional approach, which Williams and other places like it can be involved with. And I think it's crucial to keep up to date, to both maintain and to recruit and maintain students as well as faculty and staff, really. So I have taught at John Jay College of Criminal Justice for 25 years, which is part of the City University of New York, and I have come across many CUNY faculty who at one point in their careers taught at Williams, interestingly enough, but they decided to move on because of the isolation of the campus, which was important to me socially and politically 50 years ago, but remains, I think, today academically and socially for many of the people who are there now. And so Williams has to constantly be alert to keeping on the edge of these cutting dynamics to make sure that people are engaged as much as possible. So I think that your being here and the students being here for Pride is essential to maintaining the school's viability for that segment of the population. And indeed, certainly trans people and LGBT people of color are those for whom there remains to be many challenges, legally and otherwise, in our community. And I know that William's addressing and helping to try to surmount those is a very important current goal and objective that the college community is involved with.